when I'm on the thing. Are we live, Shwet?
Yeah.
You're sure?
Yeah.
Did you send me
Okay.
the link is changed?
Hello everyone, welcome to TV Nuisance Live. There's news, there's sense and there's nuisance. This show is going to be all about feedback from you guys. We have been doing this show for 5 years now. So it's a really long time. Lots of things have changed in the world of TV news in these 5 years. But lots of things have also not changed. We are going to be doing our 200th episode next week. It's going to be a very special episode. I looked at all the feedback that you guys gave and we've taken note of it, and we will have some pleasant surprises for you on our 200th episode. But we thought before we do our 200th episode, we should chat with our viewers, with our subscribers, and ask them what they want us to do and what would they like Nuisance to do. Do they want Nuisance to change? Do they want us to, just one second. Is the sound okay? Yeah, okay. Okay. So, so we want to know from you guys what we should do with Nuisance. How should we change it? Do you want the format to be changed? Do you want any new elements to it? Do you want us to do less of Nuisance? Do you want it to be a fortnightly show? Do you want it to be a weekly show? Do you want to continue to make it a weekly show? So we're going to be talking a lot about all of that. And now I'm thinking it's 11. I want to do this chat for 1 hour. And while we wait for people to come, the main purpose of this particular live is that I get feedback from you people. So I want to wait a little bit for more and more people to come. Until then, I thought it will be very interesting to talk to you guys about the Hindenburg research report that has come out this week. It has some sensational revelations, and today morning's papers I looked at. This is the Hindu. Usually I begin my morning by reading 2 newspapers at least, and my choice is English newspapers. I read the Indian Express and I read the Hindu. Now both these newspapers have big Adani ads, front page Adani ads. The Hindu's other front page ad was actually about coaching centers, because a lot of students preparing for IAS do read the Hindu. That is the thing. So the front page ad is a UPSC IAS coaching center, and the other front page ad is Adani on Hindu, and in Indian Express also it's an Adani ad. There have been ads placed in most prominent newspapers today by Adani. If you're following the news, you know why. And let me show you the front page of Indian Express. I'll go through the headlines of it. Says, sweeping sell-off in Adani stocks, group loses rupees 3.37 lakh crore in market cap. And then it talks about crash hits government-owned LIC. Its Adani share value dips 22%. And there's another story that says, experts say may not affect market but deepens anxiety on corporate governance. So this Hindenburg report that has come out has really raised questions on corporate governance. It's raised questions on how Adani functions. And let's talk a little bit about the Adani report, if you guys would like. It's a very technical kind of subject, so I don't want to get anything wrong, which is why I have my laptop in front of me, so I can read some portions of the report to you. Now, the research is by Hindenburg Research Group. We all know Hindenburg Research. I think most of you would know by now, if you've read enough news, that they are an activist short seller. And in very simple terms, what is short selling? It's when you place your bets on a company's shares coming down. It's very simple. I mean, in simple terms, that's how I can explain it. So basically, your strategy is that you aim to profit from a decline in the assets prices. So in short, shorting is that Hindenburg aims to make money by Adani's stock prices coming down, and this is something that they have very clearly stated in their report. And this is a very important point that I think we all should note of, that first and foremost, Hindenburg Research comes with a full disclosure, and it says that after extensive research, we have taken a short position in Adani Group companies through US traded bonds and non-Indian traded derivative instruments. And this report relates to securities traded outside of India. This report does not constitute a recommendation on securities. This report represents our opinion and investigative commentary, and we encourage every reader to do their own due diligence. And then they say that please read a full disclaimer at the bottom of the report, and they have a longer disclaimer at the bottom of the report saying that we have investigated for 2 years. This is our investigation, this is our commentary, we have given you citations, we have done on-ground interviews, we've done on-ground reporting for this, and our position is that we are shorting Adani. We believe that it's a bubble waiting to burst, and we're going to make a lot of money if and when that bubble bursts. But you guys make your own mind up. Don't, we are not responsible if this doesn't happen. We are not responsible if you lose money, and don't take this as an investor advice. So the disclosure very clearly says that you guys should make up your own mind. This is our labor of 2 years of research. Read it and make up your own mind, read the citations, but we are shorting it. So basically the point to note here is that there's a full disclosure, which I think is very important, and we'll talk about disclosures later also when we talk about how the media has reported on Hindenburg, because they're not hiding the fact that they have skin in the game. They're very clearly saying कि भाई हमारा ये position है और हम ये कर रहे हैं. So there's no hidden motive. Shorting is a very regular exercise. There's a very good movie called The Big Short, which you guys should watch. It's really interesting, and it's about the 2007, 2008 crisis, how it was triggered, and you have this guy, the protagonist, so to speak, who's shorting, and the basic, it explains to you what shorting is, and you'll get that basically these guys are spotting bubbles. They expect these bubbles to burst and they expect to make money. So here Mr. Anderson, who is the founder, Nate Anderson, who is the founder of Hindenburg, believes that with this research that they have put out, with this targeted research on Adani, the stocks will fall and they are going to make a lot of money. So that is shorting in short. But you can read a lot about this. There's a lot of material on this. There's a lot of explainers on this on YouTube also. If you look at their website, which I'm looking at, they have put out their track record. They, ऐसा नहीं है कि इन्होंने अदानी को या because there can be this narrative that India is getting targeted. That's not the case. They have shorted a bunch of companies. I think close to 16, if I'm not mistaken, on their website. A very famous example is Nikola Motors, whose founder then had to resign after the research was published. There was inquiry against him, and again their shares completely tanked. So that was a successful shorting. There are lots of pieces written on Nate Anderson also. You can read in Financial Times. He's called this master digger, and lots of stuff has been written about him. So it's a fairly well-known entity. It's not some shady operation targeting India or targeting us. What they do is in the public domain. What they aim is also in the public domain, and they've done this and have a reasonably good track record of shorting. Now this current report is headlined Adani Group, how the world's third richest man is pulling the largest con in corporate history. It's about 100 pages, some 30,000 words. So it's a dense read and it's got lots of citations. So one thing important to note is that it's not just allegations. They're giving you citations for it. And they're saying that we met this, we saw this document, we met this person, we interviewed these people, we downloaded company documents. So 2-year long research they say, and we have given you citations for everything that we are claiming. So everything is supported with a document or their own on-ground research. And before we go further into what the report says, it's important to say that Adani Group had come out and said that this is malicious, it's timed around our FPO, it is devoid of facts, it's making a lot of baseless assertions, and we are going to exercise legal options. Meanwhile, Hindenburg said that bring it on, we want a legal case, do it in the US, so we have lots of documents, it will, they'll be put out in the public domain. So they have welcomed any legal action, and Adani has put out a rebuttal explaining various things of the report, and basically their thing is that none of this is true and this is to spook the markets, it's maliciously timed, and we don't need to take this seriously. Now what does the report say? Very quickly, there are lots of pieces on this again, and like I said, I begin my day by reading the Indian Express and the Hindu. So you should also, whenever some big news happens, you should pick up papers. Newspapers provide the best information. They have explainers, they have relevant information, and they don't have any of the noise of TV news debates. So you should pick up newspapers to understand a little bit of what's happening. And so in this report, the first thing that they're saying is that Adani's wealth has doubled in years, and it's mainly backed by an increase in his stock prices. So I'm quoting from the report. It says, Gautam Adani, founder and chairman of Adani Group, has amassed a net worth of roughly $120 billion. And of this $120 billion, they're saying that over $100 billion in the past 3 years he's amassed, which is largely through stock price appreciation. So they're saying it's just stocks rising, and that they're also saying that, and this is something that previously has also been said about Adani. There was a Fitch report which came out that it's over leveraged, it's debt driven. So none of this is not known. A lot of people are saying that ये तो market में भी पता था और ये सबको पता है और इस पे pieces भी हुए हैं कि भाई over leveraged है, debt है. So that aspect of it is fairly known, and that is what the report also says, that even if you don't look at our investigation, just by what's available in the public domain, you would know that these guys are over leveraged. They talk about one interesting rule, which is a rule on float, which says that public listed companies in India are subject to rules that require all promoter holdings to be disclosed. Rule also require that listed companies have 25% of the float held by non-promoters. So in a company, promoters can hold up to 75, and then 25% has to be other investors. It could be, other entities. And what they are saying in this report is that Adani, the entities, publicly listed entities, are very close to that 75% mark, which is not a good, thing, and that they are also breaching that 75% mark. So that is one thing that they are also saying. And I think one interesting bit which Adani has, I'll come to the rebuttal on it, but one important thing that I think they say in the report is they're saying the independent auditor for Adani Enterprise, Adani Total Gas, is a tiny firm called Shah Dhandaria. Shah Dhandaria seems to have no current website, and historical archives of its website show that it has only 4 partners and 11 employees. And they're saying that this company is not capable of auditing work. And Adani Enterprise has 156 subsidiaries. It has joint ventures and affiliates. And the audit partners at Shah Dhandaria, who signed off on Adani Enterprise and Adani Gas's annual audits, were as young as 24, 23-year-olds when they began approving audits. So they're basically saying that there's not proper auditing, which is a very important, it's a red flag basically. It's a question of corporate governance, it's a question of transparency, it's a question of robustness within a company. So this is one claim that they are making. Adani has responded to that, and they have said that we are contemplating of getting big 6 known auditors for Total Gas, and they are saying that within Adani Enterprise we have engaged big 4s also. Big 4 auditors meaning the companies that are most credible and that can be engaged to audit. So net that's what they are saying, that it's over leveraged, it's the stock prices are increasing, not because the company is making profit but because of other reasons, and that this is a bubble. The whole Adani meteoric rise and the shares just galloping, this is a bubble that is waiting to burst. So this is a fairly important story, because as Indian Express tells us, there's LIC which has been impacted. I think a lot of us have LIC policies. There is public sector banks which will be impacted by this, and it is a very important story of corporate governance, because it's one of the biggest conglomerate that we have. Now, how did the media report on it? We have a piece on newslaundry.com. The first thing, obviously, we were very curious to see how did NDTV report on Hindenburg research, and the short answer is they didn't report on it. So NDTV's, today is 28th, until 27th, that is yesterday, we checked the ndtv.com website. It had only 3 stories that it published yesterday itself. They are all Press Trust of India stories, so they are not stories by NDTV. It's not a byline of an NDTV reporter. They have just syndicated it from the Press Trust of India. And it says that, headline says that, Adani Group stock falls continues after allegations. Adani Group looks to invest. No, okay, this is something else. It's invest in Azerbaijan and expansion bit. Ye 26th ko unhone, while all this was happening, The story had broken. They are talking about Adani Group looking to invest in Azerbaijan and expansion bid. There is no detailed story on Hindenburg Research, what the allegations are saying. And interestingly, NDTV.com has earlier reported on Hindenburg because, like I said earlier, Hindenburg has been shorting many companies. So, in fact, if you look at NDTV Profit, Gadget 360, Car and Bike, these are all NDTV entities, they have reported on Hindenburg's research when they shorted Elon Musk's Twitter, when they shorted Nikola Corp, which was a company that I talked about earlier, and Opera. So, they have reported on Hindenburg shorting companies. But when it came to Adani, they have not put out anything except for the 3 press trust copies that I am talking about. We all know that Adani ji has majority stake in NDTV now. He had said that it's going to be a global news organization and there will be a very strong Lakshman Rekha between editorial and business, which means that Adani's businesses will not interfere in how NDTV operates. So, in this case, I think it's a very big global story, and the coverage has been really lacking. And NDTV, the channel also, there's been no debates on it, there's been no discussions on it. I do think, this is just an assumption, but I do think that of the former NDTV under the Roys, and if Ravish was there, I'm pretty sure that there would have been a prime time by Ravish on what the Hindenburg research report says, and it would have been done in Hindi and it would have reached a lot of people. So, I do think that there has been a change, at least in terms of how NDTV has been reporting, or I mean, it's a sign of what may come ahead. Now, another company, another news company, BQ Prime, is also set to be acquired by Adani. They have done a better job, I think, even though they are, I mean, they are also, they're going to be acquired by Adani, but they have put out more reports on their website, but with I think with a fair amount of, you can say, it's sort of the headlines, at least the tilt is pro Adani. So, like one of the reports is saying that Adani Group rejects the report, another one says that they're considering legal action, then the third one says that there's a record Adani share sale. A fourth story is a point-by-point rebuttal by the Adani Group to the Hindenburg report, and there's an opinion piece also. I'll tell you who the opinion piece is by. The opinion piece is by Shuli Ren, and says that a short seller sitting in New York may not have unique insights into the intricate workings of developing nations. So, these stories are basically saying that usko kya pata, wo New York mein baith ke short selling kar rahe, they don't know the intricacies of what's happening here. And most of these stories are basically presenting the Adani point of view because they're going to be acquired by Adani. So, there's a business interest. The good thing about BQ Prime is that most of their stories come with a disclaimer. The disclaimer says Adani Enterprise is in the process of acquiring 49% stake in Quintillion Business Media, the owner of BQ Prime. So, the good thing, I think, and this is what we should expect from the media, even if NDTV has to report on it, they should report on it. I don't think they should ignore it because, as we can see, it's on front page. Ignoring a story doesn't mean it will go away. Clearly, if the Adani Group also thinks it's important to place front page ads across newspapers, they also realize that this is a big story and that they can't just wish it away and that it's having a serious impact in the market. So, it's important to, you can't just ignore it, it's a foolish strategy. So, I think even if NDTV reports on it, it should come with a disclaimer that he's a majority shareholder, so that you as the reader can know, okay, ye inka leaning hai, now I'll read everything according from that prism. So, BQ Prime has done a good job of putting a disclaimer. Just like we talked about Hindenburg, the disclosure clearly said that our position is this, we are shorting them and this is what we believe in, you make up your own mind. So, full disclosures in media are very important. Whenever there's a conflict of interest, like in this case, both Adani and BQ Prime, Adani has stakes or interests in both NDTV and BQ Prime. So, it should definitely come with a full disclosure saying that this is what our conflict of interest is, and here are the stories, and you read them, and this is our point of view, and you make up your mind. Ignoring a story definitely doesn't work, and of course everyone will be talking about NTV today and looking at whether their anchors are reporting it or not. Usual suspects like हमारे प्रिय एंकर्स जो हैं जिनके बारे में हम न्यूसेंस में बहुत बात करें वो क्या कर रहे हैं. लेट्स लुक एट, आई टेल यू, let's look at Times Now, my favorite, RSS and Navika. So they have obviously not reported on this, and their last night's debate was Islamic chants on Republic Day at AMU. So that is what they are discussing. Bharat Jodo Yatra halted in J&K, और RSS का शो है कि PFI Hindu hate exposed, Islamist slogans at AMU. Yeah, so they are still on Islamist slogans, and how Hindus are in danger in India, not talking about investors. देश नहीं झुकने देंगे with Aman Chopra. What has he been discussing? तिरंगे के नीचे नारा तकबीर. Again, he's talking about Islamic chants, and he's talking about मोदी की क्लास छात्रों में बड़ा विश्वास. Okay, so he's basically talking about that Pariksha, the Prime Minister has this interaction with students where he's going to be talking about how to deal with exam stress. So Aman Chopra has done a debate on that, discussion on that. 7-minute discussion it is, from what I can see, कि भाई छात्र are very happy कि मोदी जी हमारी क्लास ले रहे हैं. Of course, Baba Bageshwar Dham is still in news. 13 hours ago he's done हिंदू राष्ट्र पर बाबा बागेश्वर का अश्वमेध. सो ही स्टिल टॉकिंग अबाउट हिंदू राष्ट्र और बाबा बागेश्वर क्या बोल रहे हैं. रिपब्लिक टीवी अर्नब ऑन द डिबेट इज टॉकिंग अबाउट #2024 टूल किट. सो ही इज टॉकिंग अबाउट ऑल आउट प्रोवोकेशन ओवर द BBC documentary. So that's the level of television news debates. It's such an important story. I can't stress enough. I mean, just look at the front page that I've got for you guys. कहाँ गया? हाँ, Indian Express front page. If you look at it, look at the first 3 stories. Adani, LIC linked to Adani, and again Adani. This is a very important story. It has severe impact everywhere, and our most prominent faces on television news are discussing Baba Bageshwar. They are discussing Hindu खतरे में है. They are discussing toolkit कि BBC documentary क्यों दिखा रहे हैं. Obviously it's toolkit. It can't be free will of students of showing that. And that brings me to very neatly to my point on why we do television news coverage, why we critique them. A lot of you ask that why do you do TV nuisance? What is the purpose of this? Why are you talking about what others are doing? So News Laundry was founded in 2012. The name itself, News Laundry, means news ki dhulai. We started off in 2012 when no one was really talking about what was happening in the media, but we used to have shows like Clothesline by Madhu Trehan, which would look at what television news was doing. Back then the big stars were of course Barkha Dutt, Rajdeep, Sagrika. So we would train our eyes on them and look at how they are reporting on issues. And the aim was that the media questions everyone. In some cases, like Aman Chopra's case, he's only questioning Muslims and he's only questioning opposition. But the role of the media is that you question everyone. You question big businesses, you question politicians, you question sports people, Bollywood stars, you scrutinize all aspects of society. So there should be someone also to scrutinize how the media is functioning. One of the very important things that we used to do, and we have this thing called Who Owns Your Media. Like I talked about NDTV, how they have basically, you can say, ignored the Hindenburg report. It's important to understand why media ignores certain stories and why it amplifies certain stories, because there are business interests at play also. So Who Owns Your Media looks at who owns your media literally. कि भाई अगर आप मीडिया कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं, रिपब्लिक टीवी कंज्यूम हैं, तो उनके शेयर होल्डर्स कौन हैं, उनके इन्वेस्टर्स कौन हैं, वो हु इज़ मेकिंग मनी आउट ऑफ रिपब्लिक, एंड उनके बिजनेस इंटरेस्ट से क्या रिपब्लिक टीवी कवरेज भी इन्फ्लुएंस होती है या नहीं, ये हम सबको जानने का हक है. जैसे BQ प्राइम में मैंने बोला क्लियरली डिस्क्लोजर दिया है, देव गिवन अ क्लियर डिस्क्लोजर. सो इट्स अ गुड प्रैक्टिस. सो दैट्स समथिंग दैट वी have tried to encourage through our reporting in News Laundry, that whenever there's a conflict of interest in the media, please put out a full disclosure. And of course, critiquing television news for us became very important after 2016, especially I think for me. I've been in News Laundry since 2014 and 2016, and I used to write a lot on television news, and then by 2017 end, we started this show, Television News, because I think what had started happening was through television news, after the whole JNU sedition row, news anchors started taking very strong positions when it comes to anyone questioning the government or dissenting against the government. So if you're a student in JNU, even if you're not involved in the sloganeering that happened, but you're just questioning the Modi government or its stance on anything, you are immediately labeled as, traitor. People like Sudha Bhardwaj, who's now out on bail, was literally labeled Naxal, and she's done so much work, legal work, so much. And I've done an interview with her, which you must watch. It's a 2-hour long interview. But her work really involves working with the most marginalized sections of society and giving them legal help. So, but of course questioning the government, so calling her, a Naxalite or a threat. Shaheen Bagh women protesting, calling them a threat. Farmers protesting, calling them Khalistani. We know everything that happened with Riya and Sushant Singh almost for 4 to 5 months when we were reeling under a pandemic. Television news were focused on how she's this, Vish Kanya, jisne barbad kar diya kisi ko, and how they made it out to be a case of murder, even though everything was leading, there was really no proof for it being a murder, and then it was later concluded by the CBI also there was a suicide. So a large section of media, and this is very, television media has a lot of reach. It reaches, across India. It has a lot of hold on people. A research by CSDS says that television news is still the most preferred mode of consuming news for most people. So whenever someone wants to consume news or see what's happening around them, they are unlikely to pick up a newspaper. They are more likely to switch on the TV. So television news has a huge impact. And then when you have most anchors, like I just went through what Aman is debating, what Navika is debating, what Arnab is debating when such a big story is unfolding, when you have news anchors who give up on that role of public interest, of really questioning powerful people, and when they turn against the people that they're supposed to be reporting for. So news's big aim is public interest, but if you turn against the public, you start questioning the public, कहीं प्रोटेस्ट हो रहा है या कहीं एग्जाम लीक की वजह से प्रोटेस्ट हो रहा है, आप स्टूडेंट्स को ही क्वेश्चन करने लग रहे हो कि तुम क्यों कर रहे हो, तुम एंटी नेशनल हो. किसान अगर किसी चीज़ से खुश नहीं है और उनका राइट है डेमोक्रेटिक कि वो प्रोटेस्ट करें, तो यू स्टार्ट क्वेश्चनिंग देम ओनली कि भाई यू आर खालिस्तानी. व्हेन यू स्टार्ट जस्ट टर्न दैट होल purpose of television, of journalism around, which I think a lot of television media is doing, I think it's very important for us to call them out. So with TV Nuisance, we've tried to do that over the past 5 years. We've tried to fact check, we've tried to bust propaganda, we've tried to look at how news is continually distracting you. Like we had done this one very big research which talked about how in a year, I think in the months that we had looked at data where unemployment was a huge issue, you didn't have a single debate on unemployment, like zero. Many of these anchors did under debates on unemployment. So when news stops covering issues that impact you, and when they start wholesale distracting you, that every evening they're just going to talk about how Hindu khatre mein hai, so it's important, we think, for us to talk about it. We are not above criticism, and that is what this show is going to be all about. I think we can, it's half an hour almost, so I've blabbed a lot now, we can